for being here. My name is Regunberg, and I am excited to be standing here today alongside my House colleagues, Representatives Jason Knight, Representative Edie Agella, Representative Teresa Tanzi, Representative Lauren Carson, Representative Marcia Rangel-Dassel, Representative Susan Donovan, Representative Maura Walsh, Representative Ramon Perez, and all of our friends in the Senate as well who have served. And grateful shout out to our friends here from beyond our state borders, and in particular I want to thank Jeff Mock, who is the Executive Director of the National Caucus of Environmental Legislators. We'll hear more from him soon, but he's here today to read some statements and share news from the parallel carbon pricing efforts taking place in Connecticut and Massachusetts and other states across the Northeast. Were here almost exactly a year ago when we first introduced this legislation, but there are two very important differences between last year and this year that make me particularly determined and particularly optimistic about our efforts. First of all, with new leadership at the national level, the need for this legislation has never been more critical. 2016 was the hottest year ever recorded in human history. And the devastating impacts of climate change are already being felt here in Rhode Island. Global warming is literally an existential threat for human civilization on our planet. And yet, we have never had a federal administration more hell-bent on ignoring this life or death challenge. With Exxon running the State Department, and climate deniers at every level of the Trump administration, we've got to accept right now that the ambitious climate action necessary to guarantee our children inherit an inhabitable planet is not going to come from Washington, D.C., right? Right. It's going to have to come from the states. And that's why I'm very proud to be working with legislators here in Rhode Island and across the Northeast to create a carbon pricing strategy that will reduce our emissions and bring the clean energy economy of the future to scale in our communities. The second big difference this year, as you will hear more from Jeff Mock, is that our strategy moving forward is based on a regional approach. Knowing that similar carbon pricing proposals either have been or will be introduced in many states around the Northeast, and understanding also that we are stronger together, we've included in this year's legislation a trigger provision saying that it will only go into effect once neighboring states with a total population over 5 million have passed similar policies. Now, it's often said in this building, not always outside this building, but it's often said in this building that we don't want to be an outlier here in Rhode Island. And while that's a sentiment I don't always share, there's a clear logic to it. Now, unfortunately, the flip side to that logic is that it's very hard to be a leader on issues of environmental or moral or economic innovation when you can't be the first one out of the gate. The legislation that Senator Culkin and I will be introducing today on behalf of dozens of our colleagues in the House and Senate would allow us to have our cake and eat it too. This policy would make Rhode Island a city on a hill when it comes to ambitious climate action, helping to inspire other states. And while doing that, at the same time, anyone who was worried about this policy making Rhode Island an outlier should have no reason not to support immediate passage of this legislation, because it's not actually going to be implemented until our neighbors step up and follow suit. So that's why we're here today to kick off this campaign to be introducing this legislation. And to close, I just want to repeat a statement that I made last year when we started this push. It was true then, and unfortunately, it's even truer today. Right now, we are standing at an incredibly important crossroads. Quite possibly the most important crossroads our species has ever faced. We have a limited window of time to decide whether the next generation of Rhode Islanders, whether the babies who are born today at Women and Infants Hospital get to live a life that is safe and healthy and sustainable on this planet, or are condemned to a life that will be shaped by rising seas, environmental catastrophe, and the extremely dangerous social unrest that comes with both. It's a really stark choice, but it is a choice, and it's our choice, so let's make the right one. Thank you so much.